This is the fourth episode of the reading block. In the previous episode, we analyzed the responses from the simulated reading test mini-session that we saw here in the course. We discussed strategies to find the answers, and we talked about the importance of developing a wide vocabulary, doing paraphrase exercises, because the whole exam is built to avoid that words and expressions used in the texts also appear in the questions and answer alternatives, so we need vocabulary to talk about the same things using different words, so that we can recognize the ideas expressed in the text when we read the questions and answer alternatives. Remember that this does not only happen in the reading test. In the listening test too. If you haven't seen it yet, look for episode 3 of the reading block in the playlist TOEFL iBT, How to Get the Best Score. In the previous episode, we said that we were going to discuss other types of questions that you will find in the TOEFL reading test, so there you go, rhetorical purpose, vocabulary, and reference. These are the next types of questions used in the exam, and we will see them now.
Rhetorical purpose questions ask you to identify the function of a specific part of the text, that is, what the author wrote that part for, with what objective. Or the reasons why some information is provided, which means why the author wrote that part. Or even how two parts of the text are related, which is basically the same thing as answering what for and why, but based on two parts instead of just one. It seems kind of confusing like that, but that's because trying to explain it in words sometimes does that. But soon we will see an example, then it becomes much easier. An important detail to remember here is that the answer to these questions is not explicit, written directly in the text. We need to interpret the information and deduce the purpose. Let's now see an example.
Exam text. Darwin's theory proposes natural selection as the pivot of evolution and an excellent explanation for how organisms change over time. However, it is an elusive theory and very difficult to prove. One of the biggest problems with Darwin's theory revolves around irreducible complex systems, that is, systems in which multiple parts must work simultaneously. The absence of any part makes it impossible for the system to function. The fact that the parts of these systems are so interdependent makes them inconsistent with the Darwinian assumption of how evolution happens. As Darwin himself admitted, to suppose that the eye, with all its inimitable ability to adjust focus to different distances, regulate the passing amount of light, and correct chromatic and spherical aberrations, could have been formed by natural selection, it seems, I openly confess, absurd in the highest degree. Question: in paragraph 4, what was the author's intention in including a quote that says that the belief that the complexity of the eye could have resulted from natural selection is highly improbable? Alternatives. A. Provide evidence for the existence of complex irreducible systems. B. Prove that natural selection contradicts the foundations of Darwin's theory. C. Show that natural selection contributes to the basis of Darwin's theory. D. Show that natural selection is just a theory and hard to prove. Alternative D is the correct answer, because the citation suggests that even the author of the theory admitted that natural selection seemed absurd, which agrees with the central idea of the paragraph, that the theory is elusive and very difficult to prove. This type of question appears between 1 and 2 times per section. Examples of questions with a rhetorical purpose. How does the second paragraph relate to the first? Why does the author mention many previous failed attempts? The author discusses the law in paragraph 3-2.
Now let's look at vocabulary questions. This is a very simple type of question, asking you to identify the meaning of words or phrases in the text. It's simple because the items are written directly in the text and are highlighted in the wording of the questions. Each section presents 1 to 2 of this type of question. Examples of vocabulary questions. The word remnants in the passage is closest in meaning to. In stating that the company incurred a loss, the author means that the company. What about the reference questions? This type of question is also quite simple and asks you to identify what a word or phrase refers to. Words are usually pronouns like they, this, which. This question type is used 0 to 2 times per section. Examples of reference questions. The word this in the passage refers to. The word they in paragraph 3 refers to. For example, exam text, economic contact between Native Americans and Europeans can be traced back to the English and French fishermen off the coast of Canada in the 1500s. They traded guns and other weapons for beaver fur. The first explorers to trade with the Native Americans were Giovanni Verrazzano and Jacques Cartier in the 1520s and 1530s. Question: the word they in paragraph 3 refers to A. English and French fishermen, B. Beavers, C. Europeans, D. Traits and characteristics. The correct alternative is the answer to the question, who are they, in this case, A. English and French fishermen.
This was the 4th episode of the reading block. We saw 3 more types of questions used in the TOEFL reading test: rhetorical purpose, vocabulary, and reference. We have seen that the answers to questions of rhetorical purpose does not appear directly written in the text, and that we need to analyze the motives or intentions of the author to identify the purpose and the most appropriate response alternative. We're going to do a lot of exercises throughout the course to practice this a lot and answer this type of question without difficulty when we take the exam. Vocabulary questions are much simpler. We just need to identify the meaning that the word has in the text and choose the alternative that comes closest to that meaning. Our paraphrase exercises will help a lot to expand our vocabulary and develop our ability to answer this type of question. The question of reference is even simpler. It is enough for us to identify what the words indicated in the text refer to, usually pronouns, he, she, it, this, they. We can do this by simply asking a question, like, what is this or who are they? In the next episode, we'll discuss strategies for finding answers to these types of questions and look at other types of questions that are used in the TOEFL reading test. Subscribe to the channel and watch this space.